This story happened so long ago, so long that the edges of the memory have blurred, say like an old Polaroid faded by too much sun. Not every detail's crystal clear. It wasn't yesterday, after all, but he did his best to piece it together, filling the gaps with what felt true. Picture this. The last day of 4th grade at Lincoln Elementary, a small school tucked into a sleepy Oregon town, the kind where everyone knows everyone. Back then, 4th grade was the cutoff. If you were still in the lower grades, your parents had to come pick you up at dismissal. But once you hit 5th, you earned that big kid privilege, walking home all on your own. For Ethan, his dad was always there, rain or shine, for waiting right outside the school's double doors. That final day, though, Ethan and his best friend Jake had plans. They'd been inseparable since preschool, sandbox buddies through and through, even though that year they'd landed in different classrooms. To celebrate surviving another round of school, they'd hatched a hangout, a little victory lap of their own. Jake's dismissal hall was on the far side of the building, so when that last bell rang, brrrring, Ethan lined up with his class, single file like always, and followed Mrs. Carter out to the pickup zone. The air buzzed with end-of-year chaos. Kids shouting goodbyes, parents weaving through the parking lot like it was a race. Ethan stood there, scanning the crowd for Jake's mom. She was supposed to grab them both. Ethan, hey, Ethan, a voice cut through the noise. A man he didn't recognize waved him over, moving through the swarm of adults with quick, twitchy steps. He reached the boy, flashed a grin, and said, "I'm Jake's uncle, Orion. I'm here to pick you up." Ethan hesitated, then jogged over to Mrs. Carter. "Someone's here for me," he told her, pointing at the stranger. R.Y.N. gave her a little wave, and she nodded. "Go ahead, honey," she said, already distracted by another kid. So he went. R.Y.N. was a fast talker, words tumbling out in a rush, tripping over each other like he couldn't keep up with himself. He moved fast, too, practically dragging Ethan through the crowd. The boy's backpack bounced against his shoulders. He could barely match the man's pace. "Your dad's stuck at work," Orion explained. "So I'm taking you to our place. Let's roll." They reached his car, a beat-up navy blue sedan parked at the edge of the lot. Ethan climbed in, and that's when the question hit him hard. Where the hell was Jake? "Les," Ethan buckled up in the back seat, and Orion peeled out of the lot, tires squealing just a touch. "Jake's already at the house," he said, glancing at the boy in the rearview mirror. "You'll see him soon." His voice carried a nervous edge, like he was trying to convince himself as much as anyone else. Ethan stayed quiet. He wasn't the type to challenge adults, especially strangers. Shyness kept him locked up tight, but inside his mind was racing. This doesn't add up. Arwayan wouldn't stop talking the one kids. He rambled on about his own school days. "Did you ever play soccer, kid? What's your favorite subject?" Ethan mumbled half-hearted replies, barely listening. Their town was small, houses packed close, streets. He could have walked blindfolded. His place? A quick 10-minute stroll from school. But this drive stretched on and on. 15 minutes in, they were somewhere unfamiliar, past the usual turnoffs, into a stretch where the trees grew thick and the houses thinned out. At last, Arwayan pulled up to a plain ranch house. Faded siding, shrubs overgrown and wild. Nothing about it stood out, except how dark it felt when they stepped inside. He shut the door behind them, flipped the deadbolt, click, and the place turned into a cave. Every curtain was drawn tight, blocking out the daylight. The only glow came from a flickering lamp in the corner, casting long, eerie shadows across the room. It was like midnight had swallowed them whole. "Where's Jake?" Ethan asked, his voice small and shaky. Ryan's grin twitched, like a mask slipping. "Oh, he's downstairs, I think, playing some video games. Hang tight. I'll check." He darted into another room and the sound came. A door creaking open, then the heavy thud-thud-thud of boots descending stairs. Ethan's chest tightened. Something was wrong. Really wrong. He crept to the front door, tugged at the handle. It wouldn't budge. Locked from the inside, probably with a key he didn't have. Panic clawed up his throat, but a tiny flicker of hope lingered. Maybe Jake's really down there, he thought. Maybe this is fine. That flicker of hope. It didn't last long. Then wasn't about to wait around like some sitting duck. He slipped into the kitchen, heart hammering loud enough to wake the dead, and spotted an old corded phone mounted on the wall. His hands trembled as he grabbed it, punched in 911, and whispered into the receiver, "Please, come to this house. I've been kidnapped." The operator's voice crackled through, calm but urgent. "Stay on the line. We're coming." He couldn't risk saying more. He hid the phone under a dish towel in the corner, call still live, and hurried back to where Ryan had left him. Footsteps echoed up the stairs. "Ethan!" Ryan called. "Come on down, Jake's waiting!" The boy froze. The man shouted again. Sharper this time, edged with impatience. When no answer came, he climbed all the way up, his eyes locking onto Ethan. "You okay, bud?" he asked, his tone sickly sweet. The boy felt ill, pinned under that stare. "Can I go home?" he managed, voice quivering. Ryan's fake smile vanished, replaced by something cold and hard. He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, then lunged, grabbing Ethan's wrist with a bruising grip. The boy screamed, thrashing, as Ryan yanked him toward the basement stairs. "Shut up!" the man snarled. "Behave, and I'll let you go!" Terrified, Ethan stopped fighting. Ryan shoved him down the steps, and halfway down, the door slammed shut behind him. The lock clicked into place. The basement was a concrete tomb. Bare walls, a single support pole, and a weak yellow bulb dangling from the ceiling. It looked like something out of a horror movie, the kind of place where no one walks out. Upstairs, Ryan's boots clomped around, restless, heavy. Ethan sat there, knees pulled to his chest, waiting for anything, any sign of what came next. Then the basement door creaked open. "You hungry?" Ryan called down. "No!" the boy shot back, praying the man wouldn't check the kitchen. A grunt, then the door slammed shut again, still locked tight. Silence settled in until ding-dong, ding-dong, ding-dong-dong. "Yazori stay quick worker der Ohra Gubas tid tyr for på jag the skapart för afwa the boss olio bard horror then bang 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 loud insistent. Ethan's pulse spiked. Cop. The boy held his breath, not daring to yell until he knew they were inside. The doorbell kept ringing, the banging growing frantic. But no footsteps moved toward the door upstairs. Then, boom! A crash roared through the house, like the front door had been smashed apart. Heavy boots stormed in, voices shouting over each other, a whirlwind of sound. The small, skinny boy with short brown hair bolted up the stairs, pounding on the locked basement door, screaming at the top of his lungs, "Help me!" The door flew open. A broad-shouldered police officer in a dark uniform grabbed his arm, pulling him out in one swift motion. Outside, red and blue lights sliced through the dusk. 3 patrol cars lined the street, their sirens silent but beams flashing wildly. The air hung thick with the scent of rain and raw adrenaline. They dragged the wiry man in his late 30s out of the house, his hands cuffed behind his back, head bowed low, dark jacket wrinkled from the struggle. That was the last glimpse the boy ever got of him. He stood there, shaking, spilling every detail to two officers. One scribbling notes, the other barking orders into a radio. They waited by the curb for his parents to arrive. When they did, a middle-aged woman with tear-streaked cheeks ran from the car, her arms wrapping around the boy so tight he could barely breathe. Behind her, a stern man in a flannel shirt followed, his face a mix of relief and fury. Back at the school, it turned out the boy's friend's mother had raised the alarm. She'd arrived to pick them up, found him missing, and called the cops in a panic. The officers were already closing in when that desperate 911 call came through. The wiry man? Not family. Just a creep who worked with the friend's dad. Someone who'd overheard the pickup plan and seized his chance. How he'd zeroed in on the boy, in that crowd, no one could say. The details stayed buried. Too painful to dig up. The boy's mom dragged him to therapy for months after, and the teacher who'd waved him off with a stranger, she got an earful she'd never forget. If that call to 911 hadn't gone through, if he hadn't hidden that phone in time, he wouldn't have lived to tell the tale. That was 15 years ago. For all anyone knows, that man might be out there now. But the boy, he tries not to think about it.